Hello there, welcome to Granada Reports. We're live with the news in the northwest.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Here's what's coming up on tonight's programme.
You're not alone, and there is people out there to help you. I'd rather have my mate cry on my shoulder than carry his coffin next week.
A powerful message about addiction. Two young men speak out amid warnings that ketamine drug abuse is causing a crisis.
As the Chancellor sets out her spending plans, we look at what it means for the northwest.
The Cheshire Hospice celebrating 4 decades of caring for people in the community.
1, 2, 3, go!
Going nuts for American football. Find out why a gridiron legend came to Salford.
And we've had some hot spells of sunshine across the region today, with the risk of thunderstorms tonight and into tomorrow. Full details later on.
Yes, so please stay with us for all of that. First, though, to a worrying rise in recreational ketamine use.
Yeah, doctors also say there's been an increase in the number of people entering treatment every year.
Ketamine is used by vets as a tranquilizer for large animals and has devastating physical consequences. Use by humans is illegal. It's a Class B substance, but it is cheaper than other drugs.
Well, abuse of the drug is now increasing to such an extent that councillors in Lancashire this week warned of a crisis causing a surge in visits to A&E.
Tonight, a story of how one ketamine addict turned his life around and how he's also inspired others to do the same. Emma Sweeney has our top story and a warning that it contains some distressing images.
This time last year, the odds were very much stacked against Tom Ride. He'd only just stopped using ketamine, a drug he'd gradually become addicted to over 9 years. But time, as they say, is a healer.
I was just locked away, isolated in my room, not connecting with anybody or any sort of society. And now to be behind a counter, speaking to different customers every day, it's nice to be given a chance. Like, I actually enjoy going to work now and just learning more about myself, learning new skills.
And that's all thanks to the team at Lanley Supplies, a timber company based in Colne, who over the years have helped many like Tom trying to get back on the right track.
Tom really wants to work hard and tries a bit harder himself because of where he's at in his life, and he's trying to step up, and trying to find that in any employee is great.
It's meant to knock horses out, and obviously it's clearly taking me out of myself, so.
It was last December when we first met Tom. He was partway through a recovery programme for addicts at a place called Alicia House. He told me then just how ketamine had affected his body.
Can't even lie down, have to sleep with a hot water bottle, have baths, up every 10-15 minutes going to and from the toilet. Sometimes I don't even make it to the toilet. Blood clots. It's like weeing razor blades and needles. Like, I'm literally crying whilst trying to have a wee. The reality is I'll have to have a colostomy bag if I carried on using.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Tom decided to share his story because he wanted to warn other young people, and it worked. After that report, 19-year-old Danny Davis recognised, albeit reluctantly at first, that he too needed help.
So my mum was already struggling with me through my addiction, like, because she couldn't help me. You know, I didn't want to be helped. I just wanted to use, and she's seen that on the news, and she's shown me, and I was like, well, good for him. You know, and I wasn't really, didn't really bother me. And she got in touch with Alicia House, what the recovery home I'm in now. You know, and I come in the first time just to satisfy my mum, and then I got kicked out. You know, and I was fortunate enough for them to let me back, because you know, I'm back now 7 days, and I accept that I'm an addict. You know, and I just want a new way of life, really. I want a clean life, to build my trust back up, and build my love back up with my family and friends, yeah.
How are you getting on with your recovery then?
So I'm doing really good at the moment.
Better, yeah.
Danny's now keen to follow in Tom's footsteps after watching him recently graduate from the recovery programme at Alicia House. But as Tom himself says, it wasn't all plain sailing.
I relapsed 3 months in. I wouldn't recommend relapsing to anybody, But I think I needed it to like wake me up and think, right, you'll die out there if you carry on taking Ket. And then I came back and just plugged in harder than ever. I was like, I don't want to go back to that life.
Hi, you all right?
Yeah, you.
Nice to see you.
The 24-year-old's not only turned his back on his old life, he's now relishing his new one.
He's happy. He's getting on with it. He's got a job. He's got his flat. It's brilliant. Yeah, the best feeling in the world as a mum. Yeah. Yeah. Proud of you. Thanks.
For Tom, life is now about taking one day at a time. And for those still in the midst of addiction, he has one simple message.
Just remember that you're not alone and there is people out there to help you. I'd rather have my mate cry on my shoulder than carry his coffin next week through this disease, because it can kill you at any time and it will get you wrapped up in yourself and make you do things that you don't want to do.
Emma Sweeney reporting there, and it's so lovely, isn't it, to see how Tom and Danny are supporting each other, and massive thanks to both them for sharing their story with us.
Well, as you heard, they've been helped by Alicia House, a charity in Colne which supports individuals who have a history of substance abuse. The organisation's manager, Carl Molyneux, came into the studio earlier.
Yeah, Carl has his own experience with addiction, and I started by asking him to tell us a little bit about his story.
Got caught up in addiction from being young, stumbled from one drug to another, became a heroin, crack cocaine addict for a long period, and just got bogged down in the idea that that's the way it would always be. It was only when I seen other people that I knew had used like me, and they'd broke that cycle, that I started to believe that I could do that.
And now, obviously, you help people at Alicia House. Why are we seeing such an increase in ketamine use, especially in young people?
It's just a perfect storm of a few things, like how cheap the drug is, how easily available it is, how easy it is to access, and I think a little bit of it's socially acceptable among young people, whereas maybe some other drugs are not.
And are you seeing that increase on the front line with the people you're working with?
Yeah, I mean, it only really came into our awareness 2 or 3 years ago. You know, we started having the odd 1 or 2 young people, and then over this last year or so, it's the numbers are shooting through.
We saw in Emma's report, Tom and Danny, they're, on the road to recovery now at Alicia House. Just tell us a little bit about what you do there and how you help people.
So we've got 31-bed residential project in Colne. People come to us who are really struggling with addiction. We try and provide a safe atmosphere for them. There's lots of people with lived experience, and we just try and get people connected and show people that there is a way out.
And if anyone's watching this who may be worried about a loved one, are there any particular signs that they can watch out for?
I think with ketamine, young people isolate in the bedroom. They'll spend a lot of time in the bedroom. They'd be lethargic. They might be asking for money, a lot more frequently, trying to access more funds.
And obviously we saw in the report, how desperate it is for the families of those who find themselves in addiction. Where can people go to if they want to get help?
The local drug and alcohol services, I think they're catching up now, that they're getting up to speed. More and more organisations are now learning and having to change and adapt how they work with people. Historically, drug and alcohol services, they would be inundated with people using heroin, alcohol, things like that, and the age of the people who were using them services would be a lot higher than these young people. I think that's one of the unique things about ketamine use. It's kind of widespread amongst young people, and the damage it's doing to the bodies, it's happening like really quickly while they're still really young, whereas with some of the other substances, some of the health problems that occur later on in life.
Yeah, it's really worrying, but as we saw with Tom and Danny, there is hope out there. Carl Molyneux from Alicia House, thanks so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
And if you've been affected by the issues raised in that story, you can head to our website for more information and advice. It's at itv.com/Granada.
Let's take a look at some more of the day's news now. And a court's heard a 14-year-old boy from Manchester was fatally stabbed on his way to play football with friends. Ibrahim Asek, who was described by his family as funny, caring and hard-working, died from a single stab wound after an alleged attack in New Moston on Sunday afternoon. Two youths aged 14 and a 16-year-old have appeared before Manchester Youth Court accused of his murder. They've been remanded into secure youth detention.
A teenage girl's been arrested on suspicion of assaulting a police officer, and a dispersal order is in place tonight after serious disorder broke out in Salford. The incident involved around 60 young people on Lower Broughton Road. Many of them were wearing masks and riding motorbikes. Police say vehicles were damaged and burnt out, cars were stolen and bricks were thrown at officers.
The Mayor of Greater Manchester says he's hopeful of new investment from the Far East ahead of a trip to Japan. Andy Burnham's travelling as part of a delegation to the city of Osaka, known as the Manchester of the East, as the city hosts the World Expo. He says Japanese brands are keen to invest in Greater Manchester.
Well, next it's time for some big numbers, huge in fact, as the Chancellor set out her spending plans for the next few years.
Yeah, speaking in the Commons, Rachel Reeves said she will take forward Northern Powerhouse Rail in the coming weeks as part of a multi-billion-pound package for transport in our region.
This includes £2.5 billion for Greater Manchester Combined Authority to allow Andy Burnham to start integrating the local rail into the B network of buses and trams.
And the Liverpool City region's been promised £1.6 billion for new homes in the north of the city and better transport links to the airport, as well as the new Everton Stadium.
The government will also establish a growth mission fund to support regional projects that could help grow the economy. One of those is Southport Pier, which has been closed for 2.5 years and is in desperate need of restoration.
And work towards devolution and elected mayors in Cheshire and Lancashire will continue.
Well, our political correspondent Leisha McNally joins us from Westminster now. And Leisha, Labour MPs must be cock-a-hoop with all of this.
As well, always in politics, it depends who you ask, even among Labour MPs. But it's certainly the point of these political fiscal events to big up those areas where the government is able or willing to spend. And today, at least, our region does seem to have emerged as one of those on top. Manchester alone is mentioned 8 times in this spending review. And away from the big blue book, it's actually something called the Green Book, which is causing the most excitement among North West MPs. Basically, the government is going to change the way it decides whether big investment projects are worth the cash. And the hope is that will mean many more yeses when the North West asks for money. We heard some of those spending plans today. There's a big pot for building affordable homes. Both Blackpool and Preston have submitted bids, and also those hints on Northern Powerhouse Rail. Now, no concrete details yet, but Labour MPs I spoke to say they're positive. It's a sign of good things to come.
This is a government that is serious about seeing every part of our country flourish. We know that transport infrastructure makes a huge difference to everybody's day-to-day lives, whether it's getting to work, whether it's, buses and the £3 bus cap that's been extended. Like, all of this puts money back in people's pockets and helps us to grow the economy and do what businesses need us to do.
And presumably helps you see off the threat of Reform UK.
And, this is absolutely about doing what's best for people because, of course, in politics, we've always got an eye on how we make sure that we continue the huge success that we had last year at the last general election. But again, this is just doing what's right for Britain.
We had a Conservative government that had a slogan of levelling up. It was just that, a slogan. So what I want to see, and what I think we're starting to see the signs of through this spending review, is a government that is committed to actually living up to that.
So, Leisha, lots of enthusiasm today, but I guess it's not all good news, is it?
Yeah, many of the wins today are what's being called capital investments, and that means they can be paid for by borrowing. But other spending promises, like restoring many of the winter fuel payments, they have to come from day-to-day budgets. And opposition voices today are asking how that will be paid for.
2 + 2 can't equal 3, and that's what the government is trying to make happen in the bluntest and more simplest terms. Basically, they have pledged to spend more money. The borrowing costs are going out of control. The interest rates on bonds are now higher than they were after the Liz Truss mini-budget. That shows the scale of lack of confidence the market has in this government. And we all know what's coming around the corner in the autumn budget is a smacking round of more tax rises.
And away from the politics, there is another risk with Labour's approach, and that's that people need to feel better off. But many of the things they've announced today will take time. You can't magic up a new railway line or housing development overnight. What people will feel very quickly, though, is those government spending areas which are feeling the squeeze, like the welfare bill. We've been to a community centre on the Wirral which supports many people on welfare payments now very worried about their future.
We're seeing firsthand the negative impact it's having on people's well-being. We've started support groups to support local neurodivergent people because, you know, they are struggling so much, so we're here to help them and support them.
So obviously if there's going to be swinging cuts to the income that people with neurodiversity depend on, they could be much more isolated from society as a result.
So while today Labour are celebrating some much-needed wins, there are pressure points heading down the tracks too. The autumn budget, of course, but much sooner than that, a vote on cuts to the welfare bill. And several Labour MPs I've spoken to today say they're still minded to rebel. Today's spending announcements not enough to buy their loyalty.
Yeah, and we'll wait and see if they deliver on those promises. Alicia in Westminster, thank you.
Well, next tonight, staff at a hospice are celebrating 40 years of caring, just as they wonder what the future holds for hospices across the northwest and beyond.
Yeah, of course, the financial crisis is causing worry throughout the sector, and St Rocco's in Warrington is no different.
Well, we've been looking at the vital work hospices do and the remarkable people who work in them and support them.
Jamal Williams-Thomas has more.
Celebrating 40 years of supporting and being supported by the Warrington community, St Rocco's Hospice in Busey, like any other hospice, has seen the landscape change over 4 decades, but the one thing that hasn't changed is the important role it plays.
Hi, Han, are you okay?
All right. Big day today.
Oh, I've got your hearing aid.
St Rocco's is in the unique position that as a charity they can deliver care differently, working with an array of health and social care partners. However, rising costs and a different structure has meant that it needs to change its funding model if it's to continue giving the care it is currently so successful at.
We've got an income model which is founded on the traditional way of being that has never quite kept up with the demands and the successes of hospice care provision.
What keeps St Rocco's going is the immense support of the community and people that have had direct experience with the hospice. Jess Gillis's uncle received care at St Rocco's and she was inspired to raise money by completing the Inca Trail in Peru.
I looked and there's loads of my friends like, I've just Googled where you've been, like, are you okay? And all of this. But the main thing was everybody was like, this is insane. Have you seen how much you've raised?
Jessie's efforts raised almost £5,000, enough for a brand new portable scanner, improving patient care in the community.
When you hear that, you know, that you are responsible for that, how does that make you feel?
It's really special. Sorry.
Another vital arm for funding for St Rocco's are the charity shops, but with the rising costs of running the shop building, volunteers are an important part of the setup.
I was first introduced to St Rocco's Hospice when my husband was poorly, probably about 15 years ago. He died 8 years ago, and I always said that I'd come back and help the hospice because they helped him so much.
Volunteering is also relied on in the hospice itself, something that James has been doing for 7 years after getting involved with the Duke of Edinburgh scheme.
I essentially I'm on a tea time shift, so make tea and coffee for people, have conversations with people, and then at sort of 5 o'clock the main meal comes down, so I bring all the meals out for the patients.
My hopes for the future are that St Rocco's will be here for another 40 years, but that we will be able to develop that resilient, sustainable model that means we can also develop in line with the needs of our population.
Jamal Williams-Thomas, ITV News, Warrington.
Oh, wishing them a very happy 40th anniversary.
Yeah, absolutely, doing sterling work, as do all of our hospices. Right, on to sport now. And Manchester City are getting their summer business done early, Chris.
Yeah, the transfer window is split in two this year. The first window has now closed, just after City made Tijani Reinders their fourth summer signing so far. The Dutch international midfielder has joined from AC Milan for £46.5 million. He could make his debut as soon as next week when City begin their Club World Cup campaign over in America. He says playing under Pep Guardiola was a major draw.
It's a great chance for me. I followed him since he was coaching Barcelona, of course, with Lionel Messi, and how he played there and how he brought it also here for Man City. It's something what made me really excited to join Manchester City.
Well, now, yesterday we were at Buckingham Palace to see rugby league legend Billy Boston receive the sport's first ever knighthood. Today, it was the turn of Everton manager David Moyes to be honoured, this time by Prince William. He received his OBE for services to football today after being named in the New Year honours list. Moyes has managed more than 1,000 games for 6 different clubs, including Manchester United and Preston North End. Yeah, well done to him. Next tonight, to the teaming up of Manchester United with the American football side, Chicago Bears. The two clubs have come together for the first time to promote their own sports, both here and in the US. For hundreds of school children across Greater Manchester, it's been a chance to learn some new skills with the help of a Bears legend, as David Chisnall reports.
Charles Peanut Tillman is a Chicago Bears legend. A trailblazer of American football and inventor of his own signature move, the peanut punch, where he would knock the ball out of opponents' hands.
I played a long time ago. Y'all weren't even born.
Now retired, thankfully there was no punching, just a few toe taps, as the former Bears cornerback gave school children in Salford an introduction to his sport.
Get over the cone. The kids are having a good time. They're having fun. They're outside. They're moving. They're learning something new. These skills, these movements, trying to catch an American football is something that they've never done. So to get them to catch it and just to see the newness of it and the creative minds and trying to get them to move around, and it's actually been a lot of fun.
Well, the children certainly threw themselves into the activities. Peanut and the Bears have linked up with the Manchester United Foundation to run its mini monster clinics for more than 500 8 to 12-year-olds across Greater Manchester from 34 schools.
I've never done it before, so it was like hard to get past him. It felt like you was in a fight, but you can't hurt him, if you know what I mean.
But it was fun as well.
Yeah.
Tell me something you've learned then.
Yeah, like how to tackle. Yeah, because like what Mr. Peanut said, the game's just all about tackling.
I've had so much fun today, and I like doing the jumping ones because like it helps my legs do exercise.
You're going to play a bit more of this now you've done it?
Yeah, me and my friends have arranged to do it in the park after school today. Not full contact, but a bit of throwing the ball around and doing some drills.
While the Bears are keen to continue growing their programmes over here, United are planning something similar when they head to Chicago for their pre-season tour next month.
Both organizations are fairly similar and they have a rich history. We're very much into the community. I only see that this is a perfect fit for both of these ball clubs to just link up and do something together.
So the Chicago Bears have done work across Greater Manchester for the past 4 years, and their values really align with ours. We always put the children first, and it's giving kids opportunities that they might not normally have.
Well, ahead of its Olympic debut at the LA Games in 2028, flag football was one of those opportunities.
Pick your feet up, okay?
Learning a new sport can be a tough nut to crack. And talking of nuts, just where did the name Peanut come from?
So I was only about a 5-pound baby, real tiny, very small. And my aunt, she just said, looks like a little peanut. I'm gonna call him Peanut. From that day on, I say mom, but you guys say mum. My pops, which is dad, brothers, all my aunties, cousins, uncles, grandparents have never called me Charles.
Well, going by the children's reactions, Peanut is doing a good job at getting kids going nuts for American football. David Chisnall, ITV News, Salford.
Those Those kids very excited, weren't they? That's a peanuts reaction I could get behind.
Oh, yes.
How's your peanut punch?
Probably not that strong. The arm's getting a bit weak these days, but yeah.
Just stick to Charles, yeah. Never is it going to replace proper football, but thank you very much for that, Chris.
And now we've got another Chris.
Oh,
Here's another Chris with the forecast.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello there. Very good evening to you. Well, the story across the region today has been a lovely summer's day. Lots of warm to hot weather, actually, with temperatures creeping into the mid-20s. But as we go into this evening and tomorrow, there is the risk of some thunderstorms, inevitable at this time of year, actually, with low pressure towards our west. We see this plume of rather humid air wafting its way northwards as we go towards tomorrow afternoon. And that brings the risk of some heavy thunderstorms, frequent lightning, hail and some gusty winds with it too. But for this evening and overnight, it is fairly calm, it is quiet. The wind's still coming in from the southeast. There'll be a few scraps of cloud floating around here and there, but by no means a cold night. Temperatures easily holding up into the mid-teens, so quite uncomfortable, especially if you're in our towns and cities. We start tomorrow morning on the muggy side, still with some sunshine around, but then we gradually introduce those showers as we work through lunchtime towards the afternoon. Heavy and thundery, especially where they band together to give some longer spells of rainfall. That could lead to some localised flooding, with also some frequent lightning, hail and possibly even some gusty winds at times too. A muggy afternoon, temperatures 22 to 25 degrees Celsius. As for Friday, still with some spells of sunshine around, but there will be some further thundery showers working their way in, more so into Saturday morning, I suspect, and staying with us through the day on Saturday. So a topsy-turvy story as we go through the rest of the week and into the weekend. Yes, it stays rather hot and on the humid side, a little bit cooler and fresher for all of us on Saturday, but with the risk of those rather heavy and thundery showers. It's one to watch with the forecast, but the pollen count is up next.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather. Making the most of summer. Piri sponsors ITV pollen count.
And as for that all-important pollen forecast, we're in the grass pollen season now, and it's no surprise that with the rather high temperatures over the rest of this week, pollen levels will stay at high, dropping to moderate on Saturday. Take care.
Thunder, hail, wind must be my day off tomorrow, I think. Thanks for watching.
Good night.